Mike Tyson has been making the world laugh for decades by telling the story of catching his ex-wife, Robin Givens, with Brad Pitt.
It's Brad the shit Pitt. Ooh, you should have saw his face when he saw me.
But we discovered the horrific truth behind the story.
He told me he was going to kill me and get away with it.
Their entire marriage, Mike abused Robin, threatening to kill himself if she ever left him. For years, the media helped Mike hide his violent pattern of abuse, until now. Today, we're going to reveal the truth behind the Brad Pitt story and unravel the web of lies behind the abuse to find out what really happened between Mike and Robin.
I remember the impact. I remember the turn and the hook. He hit me on the side of the head. And I went from one corner of the wall, bounced off that corner of the wall to another corner, and then I was out.
And Mike didn't deny this. He went on to say,
"She really offended me, and I went bam. She flew backwards, hitting every wall in the apartment. That was the best punch I've ever thrown in my entire life."
I remember thinking, wow, he must really love me.
That sounds extremely chilling.
Even though Mike was abusive, Robin stayed, and to her, his abuse was a way of showing his love for her.
I don't see how she can confuse that with being loved.
the media doesn't see it that way either and think there's another reason Robin is with Mike.
People thought that you married him for his money.
And we all thought that Robin Givens was just using Mike. She only married him to take his money.
Why do they say it?
I think people wonder why we're together.
You are a well-educated actress. This is a man who is a high school dropout. Why do you love him?
He's got this incredibly gentle side because Michael loves me more than anything in the world.
But Robin sees past his tough boxer exterior because something in her past makes her relate to Mike's upbringing.
I grew up in an abusive household.
He hardly knew his father, and his mother just couldn't handle him. So he spent his early years running with a gang.
But Mike's childhood takes a much darker turn.
At the age of 11, he was sent here, a detention home for delinquent boys.
Muhammad Ali came there one day, and I said, that's what I want to be. I want to be the champ of the world.
And more than that, Mike becomes the youngest heavyweight champion of the world.
But when he lost his manager and his father figure, Jim Jacobs, at the height of his career, Robin was the one that was by his side.
We weren't prepared for Jim's death, and he hadn't prepared us for what was going to happen.
After Jim dies, Mike no longer has a manager, leaving his future unclear. And he seems to be taking this pressure out on Robin, sparking tabloid rumors about his abuse.
Wanting to set the record straight, Robin and Mike decide to do a very intimate interview with Barbara Walters.
Robin, some of the things that we've read, that he's hit you, that Mike has a very volatile temper.
There were times that it happened when I thought I could handle it.
Does he hit you?
He shakes, he pushes, he swings.
People watching can't see that as you were talking, Mike, there's no anger. He's rubbing the back of your neck.
Yeah, I don't see the rubbing of her neck as a loving thing. It seems more like, watch what you're saying.
They did the interview, but it actually backfired. Now they're looking at her like, if you're saying that you're being abused, how do you look so strong and composed? That's not what victims look like.
She is crazy. Nobody cares about you.
He was painted as such an innocent that we hated Robin Givens. Everybody hated Robin Givens.
That's what I used to hear all the time. Well, what did you say? You know, you've got such a big mouth, and why don't you just give him some space?
That was a very difficult thing for me to carry.
Even though everyone is blaming Robin for the abuse,
we did some digging, and we found out that the night before the Barbara Walters interview, Mike Tyson did something that was truly horrifying.
The night before, and on a plane, he told me he was going to kill me and get away with it. He said it very calm, and I tried to convince him there was no need to kill me. We don't have to be married anymore. And he said, no, I'm gonna kill you.
Now, when you see the rubbing, it's really like he's controlling the room.
It sounds like he was definitely giving her a message. But if it's that bad, why does she continue to stay with him?
Because when it got to be too much and Robin actually wanted to leave, Mike would just stop her and threaten to kill himself.
I said, I don't deserve this, and I'm not going to tolerate this. I knew right away what Michael was going to do. It's something that he'd been threatening to do.
Mike drove his car into a tree so that you'd feel sorry.
Yes.
Because this cycle of abuse continued, Robin thought that she was strong enough to handle it. Until one day, he threatens her family.
He was on the roof one morning. Once I got him downstairs and back in the house, and he was throwing plates. Myself, my mom was there, my sister hid out, which became sort of the norm for us. My sister, who for me is like right from heaven, was crying hysterically crying. And I remember her looking up, and there was a certain quiet in her eyes, and she said, "How long are you going to put us all through this?"
She realized that history was repeating itself.
I didn't have a model of what a good, healthy relationship looked like. I was actually the third generation in my family to experience domestic violence. My mother, she would play dead.
She would play dead, just to get him away, to make him stop.
Robin knew she had to break the cycle, not just for herself, but for her family.
I left them, and I had a hard time leaving for myself. I really took time to examine me and my choices and how I was in that situation.
Just because you didn't have that role model in your life, it doesn't mean that you can't become that for yourself and other people.
Robin thought she was finally free, but Mike followed her as she tried to move on and into a new relationship.
So I came one day ringing the door, but ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Nobody answered. So I go back to my car. As I go to this car, I see a car coming up.
I knew it was her car because I paid for it. And as the show gets closer,
it's Brad the shit Pitt. You should have saw his face when he saw me. He was scared.
I remember this story, but I had heard that he caught them in bed together.
If you listen to Mike, he says that Robin had an affair with Brad while they were still married. But Robin denied this, claiming her and Mike were in the middle of their divorce when she got with Brad Pitt.
He caught you and Brad Pitt pulling up in the driveway.
Yes, that part's true.
He claims that Brad said, like, "Don't hit me, don't hit me."
No.
When their divorce is finalized, the tabloids assume she's finally going to take Mike's money. But we discover the truth, and it's even more shocking.
Many people may be surprised about what they are now going to hear.
The bombshell announced by Given's celebrity divorce attorney.
I will not seek nor accept any money for myself. I never married Michael for money.
Wow, so she really wasn't with him for his money.
And just as Robin is getting distance from their relationship,
the media is now turning on Mike.
Why is that?
He was known worldwide as a heavyweight champ. Now he's known as a rapist.
Mike Tyson guilty of rape, sentenced to 10 years in prison.
And Michael J. White, who plays Mike in a biopic, revealed a bombshell discovery that the media tried to hide from us.
Once he got sent to jail for the rape, they started letting out all these other parts of the interviews when he starts talking about the more violent stuff and how he viewed women.
But now I really do want to rape her and her mama.
I memorized every interview. Now, nobody knew that stuff. Not Robin, not anyone else. Had that footage been there beforehand, you'd be sitting there going, I'm not surprised, Robin. If anything's villainous, I'm saying it's the media.
Wow. So the media knew about Mike's darker side, and they still went after Robin when she spoke out.
Mike maintains his innocence despite his conviction. After this, Mike talks about how he's growing and learning from his past mistakes.
You spoke of your time in prison. You said it turned out to be a blessing.
I'm just a different person. The common denominator was that I was there, that I caused some of it too.
And years later, as the world is seeing him as a changed man, he sits down with Oprah and talks about his infamous interview with Barbara Walters.
Here's what Mike has to say about that.
I truly wanted to sock her. You know, I have socked her before. And she socked me before as well. But it was just that kind of relationship.
You were a very big guy, so it'd be hard for some women to stand up against you physically.
But even with this, Mike goes on to become a comedy star. He even stars in movies like The Hangover, and he has his own one-man show.
I'm tortured. It's been pure hell.
Pure hell?
I'm not talking about once a week. I'm talking about every day. It's been
every day? Shit.
But Robin wasn't gonna let Mike control her life or her story anymore. She fights back against the media, writing to Oprah saying, I wouldn't be honest if I didn't say there wasn't a part of me that wanted you to say, that's not right, when there is laughter. It kind of lightens it for all the women that are experiencing it. And Oprah apologizes to Robin, saying, in that moment, I felt that I should have said, audience, that isn't funny.
I apologize to you and to every woman who has ever been in that situation. So even though Mike is talking about it, even sometimes makes light of the abuse, she's really decided to move forward in helping other women. She actually becomes a spokesperson for the National Domestic Violence Hotline.
It's a hard thing to get over. It is in the darkness that it grows. As soon as you start talking about it, you just feel a little bit lighter. I go across the country speaking to different women. My story is their story is my story.
Despite being shamed for trying to move on with Brad, being shamed for speaking out, and even shamed for going after money she didn't take, Robin had the strength to leave her abusive relationship with Mike.
The best thing that you can do, and that shows a lot of strength, is leaving.